We all know that gods are powerful beings, but what happens when you end up with an overpowered god? Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles. I greet you as a relic from the past, wearing a relic from the past. Those of you who have been around long enough will know what this is all about. Anyhow, thank you for joining me. We are here today to talk about a brand new spoiler card from Theros Beyond Death. Now, I'll mention right now, because the best time to mention it apparently is at the beginning of the videos. If you want to like and subscribe, share the video, then leave the comments, that all helps the channel. And we live in weird world where you just say that at the beginning now, because everybody leaves to go have a banana or something halfway through the video. I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's because I ramble and don't get to the point. Maybe it's just the nature of the internet. Either way, click the like button or they'll take my socks, and I need my socks to keep my feet warm in this cold time. Anyhow, let us talk today about a god from Theros. We're going to talk about Purphoros. I'm going to start by putting the original Purphoros up here on the screen while we talk about the idea behind Purphoros to start with, all right? He is the god of restless earth, fire, heat, energy, all that sort of thing, obsession and passion, all right? Those sort of attributes that feel very red. He is known as the divine blacksmith, right? He basically crafts the landscape of Theros. He is responsible for all sorts of change. His forge burns in the heart of Mount Velis. He literally uses like a volcano as his forge. That is pretty epic. Although we'll see in the artwork, it doesn't seem like he gets to go very far away from his forge. He tends to stay, like, look at how close he is to the volcano mountain right there, right in this artwork. And when we look at the other version of him, you will see he has not moved an inch. He's still in the exact same spot. We're just seeing him from a different angle. And that kind of made me chuckle. But either way, he wields a gigantic hammer. Actually, there's a card that represents that as well. The hammer of Purphoros, which is, it's an interesting card. I mean, it makes 3/3 golem creatures and basically forces you to sacrifice a land to do it. So it works in terms of the whole, he reshapes the lands and all that sort of thing. And the fact that it gives your creatures haste is pretty decent as well. Can't complain about that. That will actually tie into the next version of Purphoros we're going to look at once we get there. But I do take my time meandering. So let us continue to meander through the flavor and the lore, because that's what I'm here for. I'm not here for a wham bam spoiler kind of ma'am situation for a number of reasons. I'm here to take it long and slow. Anyhow, moving on. Talking more about Purphoros here. Basically, he's the one he's worshipped by, you know, there's some warriors give him tribute. People mention him before lighting up a bonfire. He's the god of artisans. He does believe that creation requires destruction. There's a constant cycle of creation and destruction with Purphoros, and we will see that play out across a number of things. We already saw that with the hammer. We will also see it with the spoiler that we're going to be looking at today. Purphoros actually, at one point, was in love with Nylia, and the results of that, well, we'll talk about that in a little bit. We'll talk about what he created for her and his love for her in a little bit. I don't want to get too sidetracked and ahead of myself here. So actually, in the past, he decided he wanted to challenge Heliod. He crafted a sword that was capable of destroying and damaging gods and other divine beings, right? That sword actually ended up in the possession of Elspeth. That's what this whole godsend, the weapon that you see the new Elspeth holding, that's just dripping with black ichor and oozing nightmare stuff, whatever it is that's on there, that's actually descended, that's been reforged from the blade that Purphoros originally created to try and destroy Heliod. His idea of creation and destruction extends even to the otherworldly gods, which is pretty insane when you think about it. It's pretty amazing. The idea behind Purphoros is inspired by the Greek god of fire, Hephaestus, and it's interesting to know that his name actually is apparently Greek for torchbearer, but that more has to do with Prometheus bringing fire to the people. But Purphoros actually brought the secrets of bronze working to the people of Theros. That's So, and I mean, if that doesn't sound that impressive, understand that bronze working is actually, like, when you don't have iron or other really strong metals, bronze is pretty decent. I mean, it's better to be in the Iron Age than the Bronze Age, but it's better to be in the Bronze Age than the Stone Age. You feel me? So Purphoros here is 1 red and 3 for a 6/5 legendary enchantment god. He's indestructible. As long as your devotion to red is less than 5, Purphoros isn't a creature. I like how the devotion cost on these monocolored gods tends to be lower than the dual-colored gods. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Purphoros deals 2 damage to each opponent, and pay 1 red, 2 colors. Creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. So, I mean, you can kind of look at the creation and destruction concept of his philosophy through the creatures showing up being created by the Planeswalker, especially if you consider them from the construct perspective. So something gets created, and then he does some destroying with the damage. So that fits into that kind of theme. The ability that he has to pump creatures for a red and 2 colorless is okay. It's the kind of thing we see on, like, the Red Cavalier from 2020. It's okay. I mean, it does pump all your creatures, but it's 3 mana to just give them +1/+0. It feels like a weak version of fire breathing overall. This Purphoros is not too shabby, but that's definitely not because of the pump ability. It's because whenever a creature comes out, you get to make your opponents take 2 damage. That's not too shabby. So that's the original version of Purphoros there. When we take a look at the artwork, you can see him standing above Mount Velis, his forge. All this smoke billowing up about him. He is unperturbed by the heat, by anything that's going on here. It almost looks like he has his hammer resting inside of the volcano. But either way, he's shown there holding the hammer. When it comes to taking a look at the newer Purphoros, he actually looks pretty much the same. You know, he doesn't have much variation in terms of the way he's depicted. It's really just, like I said earlier in the video, it's him being repositioned. This is just us looking at him from a different angle. When you look at the artwork, he's there with his hammer, leaning back with his I want to rock. Oh, actually, guys, that just reminds me. Did you guys ever see when they made the jazz band versions of the original Theros gods? Those were amazing. I remember we used them as some end screen for some videos. Anyways, since I'm talking about it, I'll put up Purphoros rocking the saxophone. You can see someone put in the effort to even make the saxophone look Nixian. How much fun is that? I really enjoy it. There's a whole series of these, one for each god. So that's something to look into. And, you know, maybe we could do a video on that sometime if there's enough interest, because we are talking about Theros for the next time period, right? So if that's something you're interested in, let me know. Let's talk about Purphoros Bronze Blooded, a name, by the way, that is very, very evocative. I enjoy it. 1 red and 4, legendary enchantment creature god. He's indestructible. He's 7/6. As long as your devotion to red is less than 5, he isn't a creature. I feel like getting his devotion up is going to be so easy once we get into his ability there. Other creatures you control have haste, so he doesn't give himself haste, but that's no big deal. And then, boom. What is his actual full-on ability? This is insane. This is crazy to me. 1 red and 2. You may put a red creature or an artifact creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. The first time I read this, I actually didn't notice that he gave the creatures haste, so I thought to myself, okay, that doesn't feel too powerful. It feels like, oh, it can only really be used in a defensive capacity normally. And I'm like, you just need a way to give it haste. And then I read it again, I'm like, oh my god, this thing gives haste. People are going to be dropping Dracuseths out with this. Massive flying dragons. And not only will that end up letting them get out a cheap, gigantic creature, it'll also feed into the devotion for Purphoros to make him ready to swing. Between this and Dracuseth and the Raise Boar, it feels like we're going to see some crazy slamming creatures into play. Like, you guys might not know this, but this is basically like a sneak attack ability. And sneak attack is a super, super strong card, honestly. A super strong enchantment. 1 red, 3 colorless. You pay 1 red, choose a creature card from your hand, put that creature into play. That creature gets haste, and at the end of turn, you sacrifice the creature. So it's the same kind of deal where you have to sacrifice creatures either using sneak attack or Purphoros. And yeah, sneak attack is definitely the stronger of the two in some ways, because it only costs 1 to activate. It allows you to put out creatures of any color. It doesn't specifically have to be a red or artifact, but it still feels like even with those restrictions, especially from the perspective of standard, this feels very, very strong. It feels, honestly, to me, this feels OP. Wizards has a new design philosophy where they're basically trying to make things more fun and exciting and whatever, and it's leading to some crazy powerful cards. I don't know if this is over the line. I mean, it feels like this card's probably going to get silly when you combine it with stuff like Fires of Invention. You know, like, oh, look at this. I put up Fires of Invention. I'm playing my spells for free. All my mana's untapped. Guess I'll use it to slap out some creatures with Purphoros. Like, that is some dirty, dirty strength. Very, very cool card, though, admittedly. I want one of these for my cube, for sure. This is like 100% auto-include in the cube. Now, on a fun little side note, as I had mentioned previously, Purphoros at one point was in love with the goddess Nylea. And I mean, if you think about the love between two gods, that's going to be a powerful thing. And on top of that, Purphoros himself is a master crafter, a master artisan, a master creator. So what sort of gifts would he give Nylea? Well, we get a little bit of a view into that when you take a look at the Opaline Unicorn, which was 3 casting cost, 1/2, that lets you tap for a mana of any color. And the flavor text says, Purphoros once loved Nylea, the god of the hunt. His passion inspired his most astounding works of art. That's a high-level epic gift right there. It's like, I've got a mega crush on this other goddess. Here you go, check it out. I made you a magical unicorn. Look at it. It looks like it's a real unicorn too. It's really striking artwork, in all honesty. I find it to be like, it's got this like very glowing pearl kind of nature. It's almost like the unicorn was made out of a massive pearl and a bunch of gold. And that, oh dude, what a gift. Either way, I thought that was a nice little tidbit to include while we're talking about this. But let me know, what do you guys think overall of today's spoiler card? Do you think that it's too OP? Do you think it's in the sweet spot? Do you think I'm crazy for thinking it's OP? Do you think it's a garbo card? I can't imagine anybody looking at it and thinking it's garbage, but you never know. Everybody has different opinions, and I'm certainly not the master of the Magic meta. So let me know what you guys think below. Appreciate you all coming by. Big shout out to all my patrons and channel members. Thank you very much for supporting the channel. And if you do not already number amongst them, consider joining up on my Patreon. It's where all the cool kids are. So everyone, I will see you all tomorrow. And remember, together, we are the 6th color of magic.